Okay, so today we'll be going over labeling plants. There's obviously a ton of stuff you can label in this particular design, which some of you guys may recognize from when I did the elevation tutorial. You guys can find that in some of my other videos if you want to. There are several aspects to labeling. Obviously in this plan, it would actually be a package plan. It would have a concrete plan, pool plan, patio cover plan, and then we do all of our own landscape. We don't sub it out. So this is actually what I would give our crews. It would have the address of the customer stuff. But this is what we would give our crews. It just has the plant legend down here, which has the plant symbol or picture, the quantity, and then also the common name. Sometimes this is enough for if you're just doing a quick job. You don't need a bunch of details. Probably one of the things I'd eventually like to get into doing to make it just a little bit neater is, and save myself a little bit of ink, I just need to get in the habit of changing it over after I make the video, is changing the mulch pattern over to a hatch layer. And I also need to figure out how to get myself some more hatch templates. So I'll probably be looking into that. Now this way it makes it a little bit easier to see the symbols. A lot of people will just do black and white symbols. What you'll want to do to be able to do that is you'll select one of your plants, hit L to select all of them, come over to symbol, and you'll see the symbol here, and you can change the size, the transparency. If you wanted to change it all the way down to 0, and obviously it would be hidden. Obviously we don't want to do that, but you would just click on the symbol, go over to CAD, and it's got a slew of different things that you could put for the symbol. This is loropetalum, so we'll just go with that one. You can see it changes it over to black and white, or you can leave the color. You know what, for this particular tutorial, let's go ahead and change this all over to some sort of CAD symbols, and you can see how cleaner it would be. So we'll just go and do that real fast. And I'm just kind of randomly selecting. Now, one of the things that you want to take note of, sometimes when you go to save, after you've changed the symbol over, it will keep that symbol the same. So if I were to save this right now, in some instances, and I don't know why and I don't know how, if I save this plan right now, it would save for my, what do I have here, Italian cypress, Taylor junipers. It would save that symbol for the Taylor junipers. So if I used it again, it would come up with that CAD symbol. So when I do change these over to CAD symbols, I make sure that I don't save that particular piece of work. Just because I use these same symbols over and over again for our projects, so my guys pretty much know what this, when they see this particular symbol, they know that it's going to be a Bay Breeze Indian Hawthorn. So I'll just have to make a mental note to not save this particular job. And we got 2 more plants to go real fast. And the only reason I'm doing this is just to make it a little bit nicer looking, maybe easier to read in the black and white format. And the agapanthus. Oops. And all I'm doing when I click the single plant, I hit L so I can select them all. I don't think I've used that one yet. So now all of my plants are in black and white. And if I was to do this for, like a city submittal or something like that, I would change everything in here to black and white. I'd take the furniture out, all types of different jazz. So we've got the plant legend down here. We'll probably go ahead and leave that there. We may actually move it or make it a little bit smaller, and I'll show you why here in just a few minutes. So one thing, you want to make sure that you've got room to label out your plants. There's several different techniques. I've been in the landscape industry for 22 years now, and I've seen it done a slew of different ways. First off, you want to make sure you have room to put your labels, whether it be on the side, on the top, over on the other side, on the bottom. Go ahead and take this out. You want to make sure you have plenty of room. One of the other things you want to do, probably get in a force of habit of, is like if I were to put this in right here, someone that didn't know any better, they may think that this box right here, which is the house, as some of you will probably know, or is one of the houses, they may think if I've got a bunch of text in here that that box symbolizes it's the end of the notes, or maybe there's nothing else they need to look at. So what you may want to do is get in the habit of, when you're getting to this point, is boxing out your house. And I've got actually concrete underneath there. What I mean by that is just creating a box of everywhere that your house is and then whiting it out. That's fairly easy to do. All I've done is I've clicked the magnet button, ortho or snaps, depending upon some of y'all's back training. And we're just going to take this off the page, right click, and edit shape. We're going to make it closed. We're going to change this over to something else I need to get in the habit of. Change it over to a solid color, change it to white, click OK. Then we're going to go to edit points. And let's see if that works. No, it doesn't. Excuse me, you're going to select all points. So now your whole house is white. This part is not, because this is a patio cover. So we're going to mark it as so. And to do that, you just basically put an X. And that symbolizes that it's a patio cover. Then we'll take our plant legend back up here. It's now underneath this white box. To fix that, you'll right click, render order, bring to front, and when my computer catches back up, it will be on top of that white box that you just put in. And then we're going to resize it so that it's legible. Now, as you can see, this is a little bit harder to read than it was in the color format. That's one of the reasons I do like the color format better. Another thing, if for some reason it doesn't fit, you can change the scale, meaning that you can go to your page setup and you can change it to a 20 scale if you want. Obviously, you want to make sure that your crews know how to read a 20 scale, or even perhaps possibly yourself knows how to read a 20 scale. To keep it simple for my crews, most of the time I do everything in 1/8 scale. Now in 20 scale, that makes it a lot smaller on the same size piece of paper. Basically, what I've done is I've shrunk it by 1 to 10 is 1 inch per. 10 feet per 1 inch. 1 to 20 is 20 feet per 1 inch. So that is one of the things that you can do. We'll see what an 1/8 scale looks like. Actually, I think may have had it on 8th scale, and I just didn't change it over. Yeah, it was on 8th scale. So if you do change it, you want to make sure that you type it on there like I did not do. So 1/8 equals 1 foot dash 0 inches. So you always want to make sure that's on your plans, or you'll confuse yourself and confuse the crews. Alright, so now let's get into labeling. There are a couple ways to do it. The simplest and easiest way is go to Tools and then Plant Label Wizard, and you'll click Next, and here you'll have some of your options. You want to have you can have it any which way. If you want just the common name, if you want to add the botanical name and add the plant key, add quantity, plant picture, leader lines from the edge or from the center, or from a unique label for each plant. We're going to go from, actually, we're going to go from the edge. Left side, right side, maximum distance between plants. And you guys can play with that and figure out what you like. This is probably one of the most customer friendly, but as you can see, it's all over the place, even some off the paper. To fix that, what you can do, the easiest way is to work with all of them, in my opinion. All I did was select one of them and selected edit points. So it's kind of got your layout set. It's recommending, all these plants go to the left side, all those plants go to the right side. So we're going to go ahead and stick with that pattern. Now, one of the things that I like to do is have the plants lead in a straight line. What I mean by that is, see how it actually see how these ones are going in a straight line and then they angle over, while actually we'll just make an example. While for my river birch right now it's sitting at an angle. I don't particularly like that. I want to be able to go straight and then angle if I need to, kind of like what I've got going on over here. Straight over, and I can follow that line right up. Straight over, and I can follow the line. Here it's going to be a little bit tricky, just because that one tree is in the way, that river birch. Let's see if we're able to get all of these in here. Looks like we may just be able to get it. And I'm not going to do the whole plan, just so I can keep this video kind of short, and both of those are out of looks like that one's going to be a little bit difficult. There we go. So that's one way to do it. As you can see, it's got the picture on there, and it's gone ahead and labeled all of our plants for us. And each one, like I've got a giant liripe here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've got I've got 7 up in this bed. So I've got 4 here and 3 over here. Down here I've got giant roller ivy again. I've got 3 and 3. So if you were doing your bid off of this sheet, you would want to go through and add the total amount. Or that's another reason to have the handy dandy plant legend down here. You can do your bid off of that plant legend there, or if you're having a landscaper do it for you. So that's one way to do it. I don't particularly care for the picture of the plants being in there. I can see how it's helpful, like if you were to give this to a customer, being that they can see from the viewpoints and video that you sent over, this will be a rendition of that. Personally, I think it kind of adds a little bit of clutter. So if I were to do this, or if I was to use that method rather, I should say, what I would do is go back to Plant Label Wizard, next, and I would unselect the Add Plant picture. I think it's a lot cleaner look, and again we can still do the adjusting that we need to do, and I think makes it a lot easier to do that adjusting. Now another thing that you can do is actually within this same method, it may be a little bit difficult to do it on this design, but we'll go ahead and give it a shot. Let's go with putting them up here. And just a minute to get some of these lined out. You can see this one doesn't have the quantity on it, just because it's just a single one. And this is going to be a bad example to show. Now we're going to select all of these and move them up. And we're going to insert points. Now normally I'd go through here and adjust these so that they're not crossing. Kind of think of, for all the old school guys here, think Ghostbusters, don't cross the streams. It's for the river birch. So now something that you can do, come on, is take a rectangle, draw a rectangle over, and really all you have to do is make it transparent. Now you've kind of boxed these plants, and you still have the lines there. So what I would normally do is take this river birch label, move it down to the bottom since it's going to be the shortest line, and just to make sure that these lines don't cross, because that gets really confusing out in the field. But I'm not going to go through all that, just like I said, to try to keep this video short. So that's one way to do it, and again I just use the tools Plant Label Wizard. So another way to do it, and it's a little bit longer, but again it has its benefits, is we can go to Plant Label, and we can left click on the plant, then I left clicked for that point, and then I brought this over. and then right click. So it has an outline of the plant, and I thought you could take the picture out, but apparently not. So what you would do is, I know this is an Italian cypress, so what you would do is, I think I used 3D model for this one. So you can go through there, try to find it, or go in and find it yourself. Although I use the Italian cypress model, this is actually a tailored juniper. So I need to change that. To do that, you just come over here to the right side where it says text, and we label ours juniper, and then tailor. Basically the plant and then the specimen of the plant, and that's what it'll do, and it'll have that picture in there for you. And you can change a bunch of different things on here. Okay, so it does give you the option for one. So let's say I don't want that picture on there. I can, that's the outline, not the picture, dummy. Sorry. So if you just want the picture, or if you just wanted a rectangle around it, rounded circle or circle, you can change the font on it if you wanted to, change the height, the alignment, and you can even change, if your company runs with a particular color pattern, you can change the color background of that if you wanted to also. So it's pretty versatile. You can doing that method if you wanted to, and you could, and I'll show you something else we can do right here. So let's say, let's delete this real fast. Tailor juniper, and I've got 5 right here. And I can also come in here, tailor juniper, open parenthesis, I forget what that's called. Type in 5 and close. Is that parentheses? Yeah, I think so. Tailor juniper 5. So I've got 5 right here. So for the lower pedalum, we got 4 here, 3 here, 3 and 3. So I could use that same method, and I left click, right click, go in, and I use the model, if I'm not mistaken, of the liripe for this. So giant liripe, or liripe, yeah, liripe giant or gigantea. So what I can do if I want to be more specific, find out exactly what we call it. Okay, well, so we just go, go with calling it giant liripe. And to follow that same theme, I've got 3 here. So I could just come in here, parentheses, that's the word I was looking for, parentheses. And, oh man, I did that on the plant, not on my label. Good job, brain surgeon. Sorry about that, guys. So I would just type in liripe, comma, giant, space, parenthesis 3, I think I had 4 there. And excuse me for just a second. Excuse me, sorry. So I got 4 there. And then over here, I would just pull it over here and put 3. Then I would do the same thing down here. So that is another, and you would go and do this for your river birch. We do it for the liripe, the lower pedalum, the Indian hawthorn, the, what do I have here, abelia? No, I had autumn sage there. So I would go through and do that individually for each grouping. Another option you can do is just select label, and let's go ahead and go from the middle, and we're going to pull it out. And we're going to drop it in. And in this scenario, you would type it out. Taylor Juniper. You guys do not have to do the Taylor Juniper. I'm sorry, Juniper and then Taylor. You guys just want to call it Taylor Juniper, you can. However you guys, whatever's familiar for your company. We have reasons why we do it. And that's spelled wrong. You know what, I'm not going to worry about the spelling of it right now. But I am going to put in here that we got 5 right here. Okay, so I've come straight out and then down. Another thing you can do is just come out and delete, and then Control C, Control V, and I'll show you what we're doing here. Now we're going to hit L to select all of them. We're going to edit points. So now we're just going to drag all of these to try to keep them in the same general vicinity. So now I've got all these points selected pretty close to in the middle of the plants. This comes in handy when you've got several plants that are close together, like kind of if you're doing like an old English style bed, maybe with a lot of perennials, and they're planted real close together, or maybe a lot of 4-inch pint-size, gallon-size plants. You got them planted super close together. You know, let's say you're doing something, and then these guys come around. You know, so something like that would be difficult for the crews to see. So what I would do in this particular scenario, so I've got those 3 there, and then I've got 4 on the other side. So I would draw these 4, we'll just say right there. And all I'm doing is Control C, Control V, trying to make that arrow line up in the center. I'm going to hit L for select all. I'm going to edit points. So these 4 points, actually we're going to take one here, we're going to insert a point. We're going to drag this over, and we're going to label one RIP Giant, and we had 4. Man, something's going on with my computer today. Come on. And I had all of them selected. So to fix that, RIP Giant parenthesis 4. So we're going to edit these points, so this is kind of up and away. Now this particular design, I would probably change, actually I know I would have to change the size of the fonts to be able to get all of these in here, labeling it in this manner. So now I've got those 4 points leading to this grouping. we're going to select one of these, and they were, that is Abelia Kaleidoscope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, insert a point, drag this over, and Abelia, I spelled that wrong. I'm going to spell kaleidoscope wrong, but doesn't matter. I've got 3. Now what I do is hit L again to select all of them. Now I would pull these 3 points up. Something else you can do with labeling it in this manner is put an outline on it. A rectangle, rounded rectangle or circle. Typically I recommend a rectangle. If it's a circle, it's going to circle the whole thing, and it can get your labeling can get really big. And the reason I would recommend doing this is you can pull all of those points to either just right outside or right on that box. In doing that, it helps save yourself a little bit of space. Select all of these. And again, you don't want to put it inside. That gets, in my opinion, sloppy. And we'll edit all of these also. So that's another way to do that. And then you would just continue this same process along wherever you have plants. So basically you would want to make sure you've got, again, to start this, all I did was select label, go to the middle of the plant, bring it over, line it out, and then I would just type in Birch River. I've only got 1 in this area. To me, you always want to put a number in, so that way that your crews know that you didn't miss something. You're basically acknowledging that you know that there's only 1 over here. So let's say over here, I've got, what do I got over here? I got river birches also. So let's say I didn't over here, I just typed in birch river. My crew is going to wonder, well, the symbol looks the same, but you don't have an arrow going to it. Is this supposed to be here? Did you put it in by mistake? Is it supposed to be in existing? Why isn't this one labeled? Well, if I just put a 2 over here, they at least know that there's 2, but I would definitely want to make sure that I do have that arrow there, just as a backup. Let's say you've got an existing tree. Just come in here so the crew would know. Let's just call this, we're just going to call it maple. And we would just put, and that's spelled wrong too, but I don't care because we're doing this for video, not for professionalism. No, I did spell it right. That way the crew just knows that, yes, I know that there's a maple there, we're leaving the maple, it's going to be there. Now this same labeling can be used for patio cover. So I've got a patio cover that's sitting right here. You can use that same scenario. We'll call that a, let's just call it a 20 foot by 20 foot patio cover. And we'd have a little bit of difficult. Actually, here's another, brings up another way to example something. So, I've got the retaining wall here, I've got the fence here, I've got the property line. That label goes over all of that. Makes it look very messy. So what I can do, I just selected rectangle, and I'm just going to rectangle over my verbiage here. I'm going to go with solid color, and I'm going to select white. I'm going to put it there so you can see it covers the tree, it's covering this retaining wall, it's covering this fence and property line. It's also copying my verbiage. So I would just select my edit label, right click on it, render order, bring to front. And now it kind of goes over all of that stuff. If you wanted to, you could even put it at a little bit of a transparency if you wanted to, just so it comes out a little bit better. That way they know that that retaining wall is still there. They can see that. So I don't think maybe that's a stopgap or anything. Hopefully your guys are a little bit smarter than that. Here we've got some drains. We could do the same thing. We could come in here, drag it down here, and we can put 4-inch drain. Something like that. Me personally, I would still leave that as blue, or I would change that to blue just so it matches what's there. I would go ahead and change the arrow color also. I think I selected the wrong blue, but that's okay. It's more of a purple. Again, up to you if you want to do that, or if you want to have even a separate drainage plan. And you can kind of, this one would be off the page, so you can kind of see what I would do. You can 100% choose which. I gave you a couple different scenarios. Heck, if you wanted to go through and label every plant, you could do that. You would definitely want to change. You may be able to go. No, you definitely want to change the font size to do that on this one. So you could literally go through here and label everything. If you wanted to label this as a, what was it, a 17 by 14, 18 by 14 pool, you could put a label there, you know, pool seat, pool steps, spa. If you want to have stamped concrete, patterned concrete, stained, pavers, whatever your heart's desire, and label that. If you've got an overlay on this patio cover, you could label that. If you wanted to label your gutters and downspouts, you could label that. You've got pool equipment over here, label that. You could literally label all this stuff on here if you really wanted to. In my opinion, you create a separate plan for that stuff. You could label, you know, you could put just a text here that just says pool. See pool plan, and that's how I would go about doing that. Or, you know, when you hand them the package, you give them all the packages. That's how I handle that. I wouldn't go through here and label everything. I would label it I would have the labels for each individual trade. So the landscape plan would have all the landscape stuff labeled. My landscape guys would do all the stone work, the bed borders. They would do the soil, the mulch, the plants. They would also be responsible for putting in the rock around the pool equipment and the border on the pool equipment. They would probably also do the retaining wall, so I would label that on there for them. Something else that was brought up the last couple in the group that I'm in, and all of this, one of the groups that I'm in is RealTime Uvision. I forget exactly what it's called, discussion group or user group, something like that. I'll put a link for it in the description of this video. And it's got a whole bunch of great information on there. And one of the things that was asked about, this was asked about in there, and also dimension, how to dimension a plan was on there. So and I'll go ahead and hit on that real fast. So within this same plan view, you've got plan view, perspective, and then walkthrough. Your plan view is this, perspective is your 3D view, and then walkthrough allows you to walk through it. So while in plan view, to dimension, you would click the linear dimensions. I would normally use the magnet or ortho or snaps depending upon your background. So I left clicked on that corner right there, drug it over to this corner, and clicked left clicked, and then I brought it up. And it's kind of hidden by that, so I want to fine tune it, so I'm going to zoom in. Excuse me. Now this 16 foot 1 inch, that's actually just supposed to be 16 feet. I am not going to go through here and change the plan to get to that 16 foot. So what I can do, I can come over here, text, and right underneath text you'll see a blue box. So I will hit 16 foot, 0 inches. Actually, you'll just put 16 foot because that's what the system will put if it's just the footage, no inches. So that's how you do that. Linear dimension. You'll go to the snap, come down, go right outside your object. We're going to delete this label just for clarity's sake. Now, something else you can do, you notice how this one is reading, the numbering is horizontal, this one is the opposite. Well, I don't know which one would be horizontal, which one would be vertical, but it doesn't matter. Right now, it is going the opposite way. I want my crew to be able to look at this and get as little of a headache as possible. So I'm going to change this to horizontal. So it's right there in the middle. They don't have to turn the paper. Maybe they got bad eyesight. I don't know. Another thing you can do, and it's you can change your offset. So let's say we'll use the spa for example. So I'm going to select the midpoint, and then I'm going to pull straight down 7 feet, and we're going to change it to horizontal. And we also want to know what the width is. Oh, look, you can't tell that that's a 7, right? So, and unfortunately, and I'll show you why it didn't do anything. The font on the lettering, or height rather, is too big. So we're going to change this to, I'm going to change it to 1/6, and we're going to select the other dimension and change it to 1/6 also, just 1.5, and they're both still right in the middle. So let's see if we can play with these and get them moved around a little bit. They're still going to be right in the middle. So we're going to change the arrow size, see if that'll help us out a little bit, and that did it. You notice one of them dropped down. So there we go. Now, one of the other things I could have done is edit points. I could have just moved this over one way or another. And that probably would have worked also. So something else you can do is, and we'll just do a measurement right here. So I left click to start, left click to finish, and I can move this up and down before my third final click. That way, let's see if I have something that's an example here. Yeah, this will work. So linear dimension, left click 11 foot 5 inches, and it's kind of messy right there. So what I could do is bring it up. To me, those lines are kind of small. Obviously, that furniture wouldn't be there, so it wouldn't really be a problem. But it does open up for a learning lesson. So I went up to line style, and I'm just going to thicken a little bit. So while we're here, another thing we can do is we can change the arrow style. So right now they are filled arrows. We can change it to open arrows. We can change it to circle filled. We can change it to circle open, diamond, slash, square, square filled, squared hollow, X mark. So one where that would come in handy is patio covers. And so we're a little bit more exact. What I do on patio covers, I want to make sure that I'm pulling as perfect squares as I can. So I'm going to go from the center of post to my ridge rafter, and then I'm also going to measure from center of post to the center of post. So that's going to give me my span. Now, one of the reasons you may want to use the different arrow styles is I've been taught, I don't know, an architect could probably answer this better or an engineer. I've been taught that if you're going to have, just because I've been taught this doesn't mean I necessarily follow it, just giving you a heads up. So this is one measurement, this is another measurement, and another measurement that you would actually want to have on patio covers is your actual full length. So that darker line is my gutter, so I don't have to necessarily measure that for a city or anything. So as you can see, I've got 3 different measurements here. You always want to have your smallest measurement on the inside, your longest measurement on the outside. Now, in this particular scenario, this is a good opportunity to utilize, this one would actually be a square, and this one would be a square. I'm sorry, an X. So the slash marks symbolizes that it's not a continuation. I'm sorry, that there is some sort of continuation. Again, I don't know if this is correct or not. It was something that I was taught very early on, and I don't remember if it was just, kind of his thing. So I'll let you guys kind of decide. But I was taught that if there's some sort of continuing measurement in the same scenario, that you just put a slash. So being that I'm measuring the span from the ridge rafter to the beam, that's not the full measurement of post to post. So it's not something I'm trying to symbolize. Basically, when you're talking about the engineering of a patio cover, they want to know your length of your rafter, or the length of the ridge rafter to your beam, and that length would be 7.3, and it's actually going to be 7.4. And then they want to know your span. So your span would be an X mark because it's a final point, while this inside would be slashes. Another example, and your full dimension of your patio cover would be X is probably a better example of this. Just go ahead, hit L and delete all these. Another example of this, but it's not automatic. It's, again, you don't have to follow this. So let's go ahead and measure our retaining wall. So we're going to go ahead and just drop these in here real quick. And I said I wasn't going to make this long video. I'm sure it's turning out that way. And I'm on the outside point, which I need to be measuring anyway. But we're not going to worry about that right now. So, all of this point, this point, this point, this point, they would all be continuations, while this point and this point would be x's. So what I would have wanted to do on the very first one is change these over to slashes. And then at the end, I would want it to be x, but you can't change an individual one. So what you would want to do is basically draw a line and just bring it over and put it over top. Basically, you're just kind of fabricating a little bit. So I've got that one there, Control C, Control V. So you can see that's got an X there. So we're going to take this one and put it on the opposite end. So now when I'm measuring through, if I'm out in the field, they do put in, because you've got those 2 points coming in, they do make a semi-X. So it's kind of, it makes me sound a little bit silly, but what you could do if you want to, you could just make these, you can actually, what I would do, if I for some reason needed to label this, is I would make a better looking X than that, but I would darken it. We'll just make it 2. And I would put, obviously I'd make it a lot more pretty than that, but I would just come in here and put in those 2 X's so it symbolizes the end of it. In most cases, my crews are, I don't have to do this for my crews. I'll just put in just a regular dimension from point to point, because I don't, my crews know my style. They know how we do it, so it's never an issue. Now if I were to sub this job out, you know, I would do something like that, or I would have it be, I don't know if it has an option for no. So if it was me, what I'd probably end up using after discovering that is I would make it circles. So I would change this one to a circle also. I would change them all to circles. Or maybe just an open arrow. And then I would also write on there how many total feet I've got a retaining wall. I would possibly also write, you know, 0 inches here and whatever the height is here, and whatever the height is at each point. Because if you go to the plan, you can actually see that the height varies on this. And the only reason that's like that is because it's off the paper. I haven't moved my elevations around when I was moving the paper around. So, kind of a bad example. But you guys kind of get the point that you guys were never even supposed to see this. I'm just kind of going on the fly. So that is kind of how you do dimensions, or a rough dimensioning. Normally, if I was to do if this were going to for sure go into contract, I would dimension out a bunch of stuff on this job. My concrete plan would have all the various dimensions on it. The pool plan would have dimensions on it. Spa would be on the pool plan. It would have dimensions. I would have probably the landscape. I may have a couple dimensions on it for the plan. Patio cover, man, that thing has dimensions galore for city stuff. If anybody ever wants to, I may end up doing some videos on how to do those. I've got some other videos in mind coming up. Like I said, in the description, I'll have the link to the Facebook group that I'm in. That a lot of questions get asked and answered. So be sure to check that out, and then also subscribe and set to get the notifications. Ring that bell to get the notifications, so you guys can get notified whenever I post up a new video. Lord knows what I go through. Actually, next couple of videos, I'm going to show how to make your house brickwork match perfectly the brickwork that's on the existing house. So that way you don't have to go through all the textures and materials and try to mess with the brightness, contrast, saturation, and tint. You don't have to mess with that anymore. You can just copy the brickwork. Show you how to do that, how to do a video that you can pan around 360 degrees while barely moving. I know some of you may have made some videos where it feels like you're snapping your neck back and forth. Going through that video, I can show you how to pan around 360 degrees, and it is smooth as butter. Let's see. There's some other things that I've got in store for videos, just what I call pro tips. So that'll be next couple of weeks or so. So you'll want to make sure that you get those notifications. And again, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you have questions, comments, you can obviously ask it in the group, or you can post a comment on here. So hope you guys enjoy. Hopefully you guys aren't too swamped this springtime. I know that for us it's the busiest we've ever been. Hopefully it's the same for everybody else. Obviously in this industry, as most of you know, it's feast or famine. And man, right now it's feast, and everybody's grabbing up the work while we can. I know, at least here in Texas, man, when we had that freeze, and you talk about famine, we were all under a famine. I know those guys up north, they convert over to snow plowing and stuff like that, salting roads. We don't have that luxury down here. When it gets cold and ground freezes over, there's not much we can do. But so it was famine during that time, but right now it's feast, and hopefully everybody out there is feasting also. So hopefully you guys get some rest and make that money while you can. Anyway, rest those bones when you can too. Talk to you later. Bye.